If I told you that $150,000 salary in Ohio is actually stronger for an EB-1A visa case than making $250,000 in San Francisco, would you believe me? Today, I am going to show you the math that the Immigration Service actually uses to evaluate your paycheck and how to prove that you are in the top percentage of engineers, even if you aren't a millionaire yet. Most engineers think, okay, I'm just a senior developer. I don't make C suite money, so I can't apply. Okay, the reality is USCIS does not look for a specific dollar amount. They don't. When I have my consultations with engineers, I always get the same question. What is the immigration service looking for? What's the number? They don't have a number in mind. There is no salary that they've identified that meets the top percentage. What they do look for, though, is a comparative high salary. So, what does that mean? Okay, so your salary, the regs require that your salary be significantly higher than others in the field. So, that's important. So you simply need to show that compared to others in your specific area of expertise, compared to those people, you are making significantly higher. So, what is considered significantly higher? Again, there is no rigid rule. The Immigration Service hasn't said what they consider significantly higher. However, I can tell you that top 10 percentage is kind of the golden standard. So if you could show that you're in the top 10%, maybe top 15% um, in your field, that you're earning that much, you have a good shot of meeting this criterion. So let's look at the data. How do you show that you're in the top percentage? Um, what everyone may know, or you've already heard of, is the government wage surveys, right? The Department of Labor puts out these data surveys. And if you're on an H-1B visa, you're probably pretty familiar already with these surveys. So, the first place, if you want to get an idea of if you're in the top percentage in your field, is to go to ONET Online. So go to ONET Online. You have to decide what your occupation is. And again, it's not that easy. There are a lot of occupations listed there, and it's occupation, not job title. So look at your job duties, try to figure out which occupation your job duties align with. And then type in that occupation. You'll get an occupation code. We call it an SOC code. Plug in your area code where you physically work, not, if you're working remotely, put in the zip code where you physically do your work. And you'll get a range of numbers. And with ONET Online, there's usually a graph, and you'll see what the top 10% earns. You can also look at FLC Data Center. That will show you prevailing wages, and look for level 4 wages. But in general, so those are two government wage sources that we use frequently. We don't just use those, but that's a good starting point. If your base salary is above the numbers you're finding in those data surveys, you have a strong argument. Keep in mind, if you're using Department of Labor wage sources, those wage sources are base salaries. So if you're going to use them, you need to use your base salary. Okay, so let's break down the geography issue, right? So again, if you're in Ohio, let's say you're making 150,000 in Columbus, and that might be the 95th percentile if you go to these Department of Labor wage sources. In San Jose, you may be making 250,000 and you may only be in the 75th percentile. So what is key is compare yourself to your peers in your specific geographic area. Keep in mind, again, the Immigration Service hasn't said what is your specific geographic area. Could be down the street, could be the same city, could be the same county. You could potentially even look at your state. So you can be creative and make an argument as long as it's legitimate, it's credible, you're using hard, legitimate wage sources to make your argument. Okay, so another question I frequently get is, can I use my RSUs? Can I use my bonus? Do I just have to use base salary? So if you are going to use your RSUs or signing bonus, yes, you can use those, but you have to compare apples to apples, right? The government wage sources are just base salary. So if you're going to compare your wage to the government wages, you have to compare your base salary. Let's just say that doesn't work out for you, right? For whatever reason, your base salary is less than the Department of Labor wage data, which in the Bay Area, it may be because you may be paid more in RSUs, right? So you can use your RSUs. Just let's just say, you're making 500,000 more if you include your RSUs. So compare apples to apples. Find a wage source that includes RSUs. And there's a lot out there, actually. We use quite a few wage sources to make this argument. So you can use your RSUs, you can use your bonus as long as you're comparing those with a wage source that also includes those. So you should use what works for you. That's really the bottom line. The Immigration Service, the regs, the statute doesn't say, you need to hit this number. It doesn't say you need to even be in the 1% or 5%. It just says your wage needs to be higher than others in your field. And if your base salary, if you can show that it's higher than others in your field, use it. You can also, in the same argument, say that including your RSUs, you're still making higher, greater than others in your peers, in your field, excuse me. So there is wiggle room. Just provide credible information, provide hard facts, and you can make a legitimate argument. So, RFE warning. Don't just submit your W-2. Don't just submit your pay stubs. You need to demonstrate the data. So, provide a comparative data analysis. Make it clear how you're comparing your wage. Are you comparing your base wage? If you're comparing your base wage, are you using the appropriate data source? If you're comparing your wage, including the RSUs, are you using the appropriate data source? So lay it out clearly. for the Immigration Service so they understand. Okay, so if you're an engineer wondering if your numbers work, we can help you. Please click the link below to schedule a consultation, hit subscribe so you can continue getting these updates.